Sabina Saksena. I am 20 plus years in corporate America, but for the last 6 years, I'm an entrepreneur in the smart city space, an investor in healthcare and the social impact. In the social impact phase, this is my journey for the rest of my life now. And Smart North actually intersects both my professional life and my personal passion. All of us this has been brewing for the last 3 years, as Ben mentioned, and we were talking about smart cities, and it was a good to do. And in the pandemic, we realized it is a must to do. We need to get to the other side with a new future, with a new look, and really reimagine what our cities and our communities look like, and all of us have to be in that conversation. We bring in the technology conversation because the pandemic showed us that, irrespective of who you are, where you are, what you do, it is a part of your life. And without that, we are not going anywhere in a hurry. So the focus of Smart North really is livability and equity and transforming that in Minnesota with leveraging technology. My reason for being here is all of the above that I just mentioned, and this is what drives me and wakes me up every morning. And we are doing some cool projects, and you will hear about them from some of our panelists here who are partnering with us on those projects. But I'll pass it on to Will, who is a Smart North founder. Will.
Thank you, Sabina. Thanks, guys. Will Preble, founding member of Smart North, also the CEO of Aeterna Media, which is a creative agency focused on cause marketing, emerging media, and socially conscious marketing for corporate brands. And personally, I have a background in technology, and I was in the corporate world several years ago and working on a data science team. And I felt very disconnected at the time from my communities that lived, all in Minneapolis, in neighborhoods that I grew up in. And I saw this infrastructure and these corporate resources, and I thought, how can we make an impact through technology? I understand a lot of things that, because of my education, because of my privilege, because of the place that I've been put into, that give me a perspective on the possibilities that can be created through technology. And as I kind of took my entrepreneurial path, started the company with my co-founder over here, Tayo Daniel, I realized technology is an equalizer. Technology, and those of us who understand technology, can really drastically and exponentially transform the communities around us, within a generation. And so when I got into the smart cities community here with Sabina and Tom and some of these incredible thought leaders that we have here with us today, as a 26-year-old, I figured, I can bring my youth, I can bring my perspective, and I can bring my energy to this space to do what I can to connect thought leadership, technology, academia, and the corporate world to some of the efforts that are going on in our communities, and really figure out, how can we be intentional about our 10-year vision for Minneapolis and making that inclusive and equitable for everyone in our communities. So with that, I will pass it along to Tom Fisher.
Oh, okay, good. Good to see everyone. So Tom Fisher, I'm a professor at the University of Minnesota. The work I do is in the area of urban design and planning, run a Minnesota Design Center there at the university. And I really got involved in Smart North. I think I was on that panel 3 years ago, talking about the work that we had been doing with the National Science Foundation around autonomous vehicles. So we were part of a university-wide team looking at this. And we were focused on the infrastructure impacts of autonomous vehicles. And this was part of a larger interest of mine in the idea that we are in the process of automating virtually everything that is boring, predictable, or dangerous, which is a huge part of the work life of many people. Not many of us do dangerous things, although driving turns out to be one of the most dangerous things any of us do in a given day. But we are also, of course, eliminating a lot of predictable work, turning it into software. And so I've often been interested in what's left for us as humans humans to do. So I'm very interested in this digital-human interface and how we can ensure that there, as I said in a previous session, that there's digital equity, that we invest in infrastructure that is preparing all of us, everybody, urban, rural, whatever your, whatever your ethnicity, whatever your background, that you have, access to this new economy that we are in. And so I've just been a part of Smart North. I've also been following the whole smart cities movement. We've been working with a colleague at Columbia University, Jeffrey Sachs, who runs the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, which is a global network of people working in the digital cities space. We've been focused on the Sustainable Development Goal number 11, which is about creating more sustainable, equitable cities. And so I think that bringing the Twin Cities into that global conversation also made me realize that we're behind. That there are a lot of cities that are much further along than we are. And so while our region likes to think of itself as being progressive, we actually need to have some catch up here. I also think, though, that there are opportunities of things that we can do that can leapfrog other cities, that there are opportunities that we have. And so that's why I think continuing to have this conversation as part of Startup Week is really important, because I think our entrepreneurial community can really help us sort of reimagine what some of those opportunities are for a city in a northern region such as ours. With that, who should I pass it next to? Tayo.
Hey, I'm Tayo Daniel, co-founder of Aeterna Media and also one of the founding members of Smart North. And I'm really passionate about Smart North's social initiatives. It's really important to me because I'm a living testimony of it. As we said prior, technology really changed my life. Years back, I was really at my bottom, and it wasn't really until I got into technology since 2019, when we founded Aeterna Media, we've pretty much 10x'd. Also in the music space, my family's from Nigeria, and there's people that I know in Nigeria that when I was younger, they were, because they were able to monetize off their musical talents from a small town in Nigeria, from a small village in Nigeria, and all they needed was a laptop. Or a cell phone even at that. Not even a laptop, a cell phone. So I'm very passionate about how can we use technology to leverage the livability and the equity in our communities. And we're designing a tech hub. They'll talk more about that later here. And really, it's not really about how much money you have. It's more about the access and the knowledge. Just being able to say, hey, did you know this is happening? Did you know you could do this? This design. And all this, it's a plethora of information out there, and we just want to be able to make sure that inner city communities and underserved, youth can get access to that.
All right. So we're going to shift over into talking about some of the projects that are underway and kind of activating the organization, the community, leveraging the technologies and people and so forth that we have together. We have Diane Rucker from UEL, or from Towerside, as well as PJ Hill, and then Bernadine Jocelyn is from the Bladin Foundation, though she was going to participate remotely. I don't think we have her available, so I'm going to try to channel as much of her introduction, and I am working on a project with her so I can fill in some of the insights on that. But Diane, why don't we start out with you?
Sounds great, Ben. Thanks so much. So my name's Diane Rucker. I'm kind of wearing two hats today. So I have the honor of leading University Enterprise Labs, which is where you're at right now. So we're an incubator for startups. We work with startups in the life sciences, biotech, and health tech From the perspective of this panel, we were sitting in an old converted Target warehouse, which essentially was unused until about 2004, 2005. And what we've done is converted it to a set of labs. Now that's not without its challenges from a sustainability and livability standpoint. But some of the things that we've tried to do for UEL is to include, we've got solar panels on the roof, we have some active stormwater management and rain gardens around the building. And the new addition that we opened in 2019 also includes some smart and energy sustainability features to try to do it. But it's really hard when you're back calculating or trying to change something that exists already. So the opportunity here, both at UEL and in the Towerside Innovation District, which I also lead, is to look at what we can build forward and really how we can take those technology, those smart cities elements, those sustainability elements, and build them into an aging urban infrastructure as we rebuild better than before. So the Towerside Innovation District, UEL is part of it. It's about 370 acres that stretches from just east of 280, so roughly just into St. Paul, over to the Huntington Bank Stadium area, so close to the east bank of the University of Minnesota. And what Towerside Innovation District is an opportunity to look at both the infrastructure, the buildings, the innovations that are part of this region, and to build back better. So a key project that Towerside's working on with Sabina's leadership is the Resilient Communities Project, and that's in partnership with Tom and with the Minnesota Design Center. And for this particular project, we engage students to think about what is an innovation district? What are the sustainability elements that we can add up front to really look ahead to 2040, 2050, and beyond? How do we think about Towerside as not just a single city or place, but as a merged set of cities and counties? And one of the challenges that we do with any sustainable improvements is it can't just be in the city where you start. It has to connect. So Towerside is ideal for that because it spans both Minneapolis and St. Paul. It spans both Hennepin and Ramsey counties. And looking at the opportunities, it spans the 2040 plan and then the 2050 goals for the city of St. Paul. So we're really excited to be working with the University of Minnesota on this. The Resilient Communities Project is targeted both for sustainability goals and for looking at the opportunities for equity as we build back.
I just want to add to that the Towerside Innovation District is a core project for Smart North too. It's one of the 100 innovation districts in the world. So if you think about innovation and our future, it's like a pilot ground for us to test and build and try what a future community, a city, amalgamation of two cities could look like, socially, culturally, from an industry perspective. So it's a huge opportunity, and very excited to be a part of that.
Thank you. PJ, why don't we turn it over to you and share some of your background and your participation with Smart North and the project you have underway.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. My name is PJ Hill, born and raised here in Minneapolis, graduated from Minneapolis North, went to Ohio State, played professional basketball for 10 years, and now retired and I'm in private wealth. But I'm a member of the Minneapolis community. That community shaped me. So outside of being a financial advisor for North Rock Partners, I'm a minority developer. And so what I do is a lot of affordable housing, but affordable commercial space for the community. I believe that ownership brings a sense of pride. And so to see people who are born and raised in this community to be able to own some of that property brings a sense of pride. So the collaboration I'm doing with Smart North is I own the biggest building in George Floyd Square. As you guys know, the unrest and what happened, that is like the epicenter of the world, and the world is watching. So I said, how can we use technology, which is the great equalizer, to uplift the community that's truly been underserved and whose voice has been kind of drowned out. And so when I met Will, Tayo, and Sabina, and they approached me about being a tenant in my building and doing a teen tech center in partnership with Best Buy, I jumped on it because I understand that previously the number one way that wealth was passed in this nation was through real estate. But now we're entering a new age. So how do we allow everybody to participate in the digital equity that's coming, and make sure that communities of colors and minority communities can have some of that digital real estate. And I think what they're allowing through Smart North is giving the youth access. They're broadening their horizon. They're exposing them to technology, which is a game changer. Being able to have the latest technology, being able to see yourself in a position where you can have a profession other than, you know, what most of us think is just sports and entertainment. How can you use technology to do different things to impact your community? So when I had the opportunity to partner with Smart North to do that, I jumped on it. I think access is a big problem in our communities, especially in the community that I'm from. So how do we bring that technology to level the playing field within society? And so all of us have benefited hugely from technology. So being able to give the youth, being able to give those communities that technology, I think will help level that playing field for all of us. So I'm truly grateful to be able to partner with Smart North and Best Buy to be able to do this and to really move the ball for our community.
I just wanted to add, and Tayo, jump in if you need to, that we have been engaging with the community and in listening sessions, and it has been amazing the kind of inputs and the guidance we are getting, and the need, just confirming some of our hypotheses and assumptions, and adding so much richness to the dialogue and what is the art of the possible, and the dire need. It is so palpable. So very excited about that project. A few months to go, but we are on that journey. And thank you, PJ, for your support.
Thank you. We'll get into more question and answer on each of these projects in a moment. I'm going to kind of present on behalf of Bernadine Jocelyn. She is the Director of Public Policy and Engagement at the Bladin Foundation. And the Bladin Foundation is a private foundation based in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. And as of December 2019, I'm not sure what they're at right now, but they had foundation leverage proceeds that totaled worth approximately $411 million at that point. Their mission is to be a trusted partner and advocate to strengthen rural Minnesota communities, especially in the Grand Rapids area. And the vision is healthy, inclusive rural communities. And Smart North has been engaged with Bladin for a bit over a year. Bladin has done quite a bit of work to build out broadband connectivity and access in outstate Minnesota, and in addition to bringing technology and connectivity to outstate, and particularly the Arrowhead region. There's an Arrowhead Intelligent Region initiative between Bladin and IRRR, which is the Iron Range, I think, resource. I'm forgetting the last R. But they've come together and we're actually participating with Bladin and IRRR in that initiative, leveraging a grant that brings smart technologies to the city of Grand Rapids. Kind of dovetails with some other projects that you're going to hear about today. You know, we're dealing with access and equity, transportation, sustainability, and enablement for both public and private services, and basically the municipalities and the residents. So what we've got in place is a smart streetlight pilot, which is and streetlights are, present in most communities and can serve as an initial network and connectivity point for smart communications and integration. We're running a pilot that is going to put some smart streetlights and connectivity and an interactive kiosk on the route of an autonomous vehicle route that's being launched in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, and that's pretty exciting. There's quite a few players in that. I know Tammy from Plum Catalyst and Tom will be, I think, covering that a bit more in one of the later sessions, but essentially it provides access and mobility on a route through the city, and then has mobility hubs for various types of transportation, such as bus, bikes, scooters, and so forth. Trying to improve livability and transportation in the area. We're looking at the portion of some of those stops, saying, what's the existing infrastructure now in terms of connectivity and street lights, and then how can we enable both city and rider and guest capabilities with that. And so there's with switching to LED lights, if they haven't already, it's there's a sustainability and conservation aspect to it. But street lights can have sensors and can be managed with brightness and dimming to increase in brightness when there's crowds or more people, or if there's a 911 call, you can brighten the area and the path and provide the services for them. There's also sensing and monitoring available for environmental and sound and air quality, things like that. So we're still in discovery stage and working with the University of Minnesota. I've got a fellow from the University of Minnesota participating on this. We're working with the city of Grand Rapids and quite a few other contributors from community colleges in the area to some private entrepreneurs that are stepping up to help develop this pilot, which will provide these services and enable the mobility in that area. So, and then, sorry.
Do you want to talk about the hub, the
Tara?
The smart light being actually a tech hub? I was asking Tom.
Oh.
Sarah.
Yes. So as Ben mentioned, in addition to the Bladin project, we're working on an autonomous vehicle shuttle in Grand Rapids, one of 3 pilot projects in the state of Minnesota. There's another one in White Bear Lake and another one in Rochester, Minnesota. And the idea of this is, how do we enhance mobility for the entire population? I think one of the things we forget is that drivered vehicles basically exclude about 25% of our population, people who cannot drive, children, people who have physical disabilities and other things. And so the mobility revolution that's going on, not just with autonomous vehicles, but the move of transportation toward mobility services, is really causing us to sort of think about, okay, what does mobility mean for people? So in partnership with the Smart Streetlight project is this idea of creating mobility hubs, where people can access a wide range of vehicles depending on what your needs are. And so we're interested in piloting what does that look like, where does that need to be, and how do we integrate our transportation system and our street lighting system into a whole network.
I just want to make a comment here. Smart street lights are the entry point for smart cities in anywhere in the world. It's the starting point. And Minnesota, smart street lights have been happening, but it's only the LED part of the infrastructure, which is cost saving and efficiency. But what we are envisaging for the Grand Rapids pilot is really the smart street light pole becoming a tech hub by itself. It has 5G nodes, so if you think about the last mile connectivity from a broadband perspective, crime, pollution, footfall. There are so many use cases, so that pole is not just a dumb pole. It is a smart, intelligent pole, loaded with technology that can serve the people and the data that can help, make people's lives better and better decision making. So I just wanted to add that piece, which is the cool part about this project.
Right. Good. I think we've introed everyone in the projects. Probably a great time. If anyone else, anything else they want to contribute, was there something else you wanted to add, Sabina? Or?
To talk about the George Floyd Square Tech Hub, if you have any comments, Tayo?
Yeah, so the George Floyd Tech Hub, as you can see, the thing about technology, as you've been hearing from everybody, that it can really change the lives of communities. So at Smart North, we had to, we're like, where can we change the lives? Where can we start so we can get people's attention to understand the importance of this? Just the smart street lighting, for example. Can you just imagine the possibilities that you can have when you have so much technology going on in that pole? I mean, there was so much space there that was only used for electricity, and that was it before, right? The possibilities are limitless, and we want the youth to be able to engage in these type of things right now. Don't wait till they get to my age when I started learning about technology. Let's start them off now, right? Let's get them to understand what street lighting is. Let's get them to understand how they can be creative and what are their ideas. You know, I'm a youth development specialist also as well, and I speak at a lot of different public schools. And the creativity that these youth have is just, it's astonishing. I mean, they come up with the most, you know, creative ideas, and I'm just like, why didn't I think of that? You know, and it's probably because I'm caught up into my day-to-day lives. So we need the youth to engage in a lot of these conversations. We need to tell them that, you know, the sky's the limit, and you can use technology in the best way possible. And to add to that, they're using this technology whether we like it or not. So we might as well figure out how can we make sure that they're being safe in these spaces? How can we make sure that this technology is benefiting them and not hurting them? Because technology is here to stay. So we're trying to make sure, you know, and that's our objective here at Smart North, is how do we educate people about this? How do we help improve the lives and make sure that everybody's living in a safe community?
Yep, sure, absolutely. Go ahead, PJ.
You know, one thing I really want to add, just as a community member and growing up in the community, one thing I really love about Smart North's approach is everybody thinks that they have the solution for community. So you come and you impress your thoughts on what you think should happen instead of not doing things for the community, but doing things with. And so when you take that humble approach of how do I come in, be an added benefit to the community, see what the needs are, and then go from there. I mean, that was Smart North's approach. And I think that's the best way, because as the community goes through different things, people want to help, and we have a windfall of people coming to help, but with the solutions that they think we need. And if you come in with a listening voice and you come in humble, you will see right where there are gaps and where you can fill in and really create an environment that's conducive for growth for everybody. And so Smart North has done that, meeting with the Boys and Girls Club, meeting with the local neighborhood associations. And I think those things are important because this time right now, the community is very fragile. We as community is very fragile. We have had not only law enforcement, but other people misuse our trust. And so, you know, when you come in new to the community, it's a very, you know, tactful thing. So how do you be tactful and really gain the trust of the community and use the technology in a positive manner in a way that will uplift the community? So that's one thing I wanted to share, and that's very important.
As well. Thank you, PJ. Just wanted to add one comment here. I think it's been incredible to see, especially with the work that you've been doing, Tayo, and everything that's happened in the last year or so, some of this energy that's been catalyzed coming out of the pandemic and, you know, the murder of George Floyd last year turn into something tangible and turn into something with a long-term impact. I think as an entrepreneur, I'm guilty of this myself, but in the business world, you know, I think we can get really focused on, you know, one short-term objective or just winning in your specific industry or your specific business. But the goal for us here at Smart North is to take a holistic approach. Obviously, there's many different perspectives represented even on this panel alone, and be able to be that bridge between, you know, corporate, civic, entrepreneur, the community, rural, urban, and be able to actually look at it as an ecosystem, right, where everyone plays a role, whether you're a Fortune 500 corporation or you're an entrepreneur sitting here as a sole proprietor starting a business. You play a role in this ecosystem, and it's important for all of us to engage in this conversation because, I mean, right now, Tom, I think you mentioned it on your last session, it's time to build back better. It's time to not only try to get back to where we were before 2020, but look at this as an opportunity to build something completely new and reimagine, you know, what our cities look like coming out of this time period. So,
and if I could just add to that as well, kind of to leverage on the point that it's not just the role of the cities to do this, it is everyone's job, and we can't do it alone, but none of us in this room have all of the ideas that we need to really make that build back better. We have some of them, but it's really about reaching out to the community, about forging partnerships across civic, corporate, community, social enterprises, and being able to look at the impact of those and say, we want it to be better than it was, and we can make a difference.
Yeah, and to add to that, there's the one thing that I've learned about community is that everybody speaks in different ways, and they understand love in different ways, in different languages, in different communication. So as we're entering into this world of technology in this digital space, we have to keep that in mind. As we've seen, technology has been a huge responsible partner for bringing awareness to a lot of the injustices that have been going on. And I could only imagine what if, back in the 60s, they had this type of technology, right? We're able to see things that we were unable to see before. And and that's one of the main reasons why I got into this space. If you look at media and tech, those are two different spaces that you can transform wealth the fastest. I mean, you have people like, Mark Zuckerberg coming out of nowhere and just passing up some of your traditional wealthiest families. But there's also a lack of representation of people of color. And I wanted to take a leadership role and get into that space, and that's why I helped co-found Aeterna Media for that simple reason. And how can we then pay this forward to our future, our youth, and making sure that they're getting the access to a lot of this stuff. They're understanding their potential and how can they maximize potential through technology. And we're seeing that going across the world. So, that's what for me. That's what the ultimate goal is. How can we use technology to add value? Because one thing in life is if you're not adding value, you're probably doing the opposite.
Well, I think we are at the end of the time, but I just want to make sure that for the audience, many of your entrepreneurs in the audience, online or in the room, or your civic bodies, or you're from the city, you will find the Smart North is just a coalition. We are all entrepreneurs. We have full-time jobs, and this is happening in our spare time, and that spare time is a lot of time. These projects don't take off just like that. So we invite all of you to check us out. We are a growing coalition of all of you. And come help us, join us, and help grow this momentum and more conversations like this. So back to you, Ben.
Yeah, I apologize for the late start today. So do we not have time for question submissions? Is that
a couple, if there are any questions in the room.
Are there any from remote participants? Okay.
So we do have an online question from Riley Major. With respect to the smart streetlights, how do we balance enhancing monitoring and support for emergency services against an expanding surveillance state? How do we ensure it's not weaponized against struggling communities to increase enforcement activity?
Yeah, no, that's a very valid concern, and that's holding some of the cities from moving forward on it to make sure that they've got community voice and feedback. And part of the whole project is assessing what the community's interests, desires, and fears are around those deployed technologies. And it's not necessarily putting cameras and shot spotters in. There's a lot of other more positive and uses for that versus surveillance and police state oversight. Right? There's quite a bit. So I think the combination of having all the different stakeholders in the community and that input about what are the priority applications and technologies that we deploy there. I mean, most of this is focused on supporting the autonomous vehicle route, serving as waypoints potentially for the navigation system on that, as well as services for guest riders. Above and beyond that, we'll look at other functions. The example of the emergency vehicle response, I think, shortening the time of response for a 911 call can be beneficial to most. I think it's important that those different stakeholders have that input, and we're all working toward kind of the positive aspects.
And Ben, if I can add to that, so we've been working with Hennepin County and the National Science Foundation and reimagining the 911 system so that there are more appropriate responses to situations as they're occurring, so it isn't always the police who are responding. And one of the ideas here is to have people with mental health or addiction or social work backgrounds in the PSAP responding to a call in real time, guiding the people on the ground in the situation in terms of what's the most appropriate response. And to, for example, be able to real-time tell a police officer, you need to back off, this is a person having a drug crisis, and so we need a different kind of response. And so one way of having the intelligence in the streetlights is it enables people with different expertise to be guiding how we respond to situations on the ground. So it's, I mean, we tend to think of the surveillance state in always negative terms, but actually this is an effort to turn that ability to understand what's going on the ground to a positive end, to get the appropriate people responding to situations.
Yeah, and I agree with that. It's like, how can we use technology to actually help the community? But it is a valid question, right? How do we move forward, but also not invade people's privacies? And the good thing is that instead of saying we can't do that, it's exactly what that question was, is how. And coming together and having these conversations and having these panels is how we're going to get there.
Thank you. Any other, okay, question? Yeah.
So just the main point, if I just got you right, how do we make sure this technology and all this work that we're doing in the community doesn't gentrify the community? That is like my number one thing. And so that's why I truly believe that community representation and ownership is important. And how do we pour into the lives of the community that's there? So when we talk about technology, a lot of these kids don't have access. And so this is what gentrifies them out. There's barriers to entry into living the American dream. So how do we pour into these young kids, pour into the community to bring them up and make it the great equalizer, so that way we can impact their economics, we can impact their, like one thing we talked about doing through our space is doing certifications. So making it so you don't only have to go to college, but that you can participate, get a certification through Best Buy or through Arctic Wolf networks, and then be able to go out in society and have a job that, you know, improves your family. Because our main goal with this is to create generational wealth for the community. And so how we do that is being intentional on how we build the people in the community up and make sure the technology is used in the right way.
I just want to add, during the day today, there are 2 sessions happening, one on affordable housing and an investment strategy that will help keep the people there and give an ROI to the investors. So that is, to your question, that could be an answer. So please watch that and be there. And the other one is we just finished a conference session on urban placemaking and new partnerships. And this is exactly one of the points that you were asking about, is without displacement, how do we develop a community? And history has taught us a lot. And I think a time has come when that history hopefully won't be repeated. And it's with the engagement of the community that you co-create that community. So those are the 2 sessions that will actually address some of these questions that you've asked very specifically.
A third session, which I'm moderating at 2, is also looking at specific anti-gentrification efforts underway in 2 different communities in Minneapolis. So 2 o'clock if you're interested in that topic.
Gentrification is a monster on its own, and I would like to agree with everybody here in its ownership, right? And how we equipping people with the skills in this competitive world. It's a competitive market, and competition is here to stay. So the best thing I think is how are we equipping people with the skills so they can compete in this world, I think is very important to combat a lot of that stuff.
Okay. I think we are up on time. Give everyone time to